Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. This is Crypto Talk with Brianna and Scott, and I'm Scott. Brianna, how you doing this week?
Hey Scott, I am great. Hey everyone, doing really well. Uh, Not sure if you can hear me. I feel like the audio may be a little bit off, but
You might be lagging a little bit, but we can hear you, we can see you. You're all good.
great. I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, so I'm good. The sun is poking out today, so we got a lot of smoke here in Montana from fires in Canada, and it's just all blowing down like the whole state of Montana and parts of the Dakotas are like we're like covered in smoke, and it's so not fair because we know that's coming in August and September, and I didn't expect it in May, so kind of bummed out. But today the sun is out, so it's poking through, so I'm good.
Good. Yes, I we have a little glimmer of smoke as well. I didn't even believe it was smoke because it's May. So
Yeah,
hopefully it's a one-time deal. We'll see, but we
yeah,
have the sun. I can't complain. It's
yeah.
yeah, it just feels good outside. Great energy in the air.
Good. Yeah, I feel it today. I do. I feel good energy. And, I mean, crypto is just kind of hanging sideways. It was funny. We were talking, didn't seem like there was a lot of news going on this week, really. And, Bitcoin's just kind of hanging around 20, dips a little 26 for a while, hangs at 27. So it's kind of boring. I attend a few different crypto podcasts and VIP calls and stuff. And they were saying the same thing. It's just kind of boring. And, kind of summer's kind of like that. What was the saying they say is like May, something about May go away. I don't know. I can't remember the first part, but it's something about May and June and July are kind of boring times. But I'm sure in crypto there's going to be stuff to talk about. There's just always something going on. That's for sure.
There is. And, it's funny because I know we talked before this and I almost asked you to just bring all the articles today because I didn't have anything, which I found stuff. But I usually bring current stuff and I have other things I've saved from weeks
Yeah,
ago that are interesting. But to me, it seems so far in the past because
yeah.
so much happens in crypto that I'm like, is this, but yeah, it's definitely still valid, and it's still things that pertain to this day, but it also can seem like just
It
so long
can.
ago that I'm like,
A
this is
week. A
old.
week seems that's like months in crypto time. Yeah, yeah, totally. So I got a couple things I'm going to talk about. The UK has put out some troubling words about crypto, so we'll talk a little bit about that. I've got an article about MetaMask rolling out the purchase of ETH through PayPal, which is pretty cool. And let's see what else I have. One more here. Ripple. Ripple. Oh, did you? I don't know if you got this one, but Ripple rolls out CBDC platform for governments and financial institutions. Uh-oh. We'll see what that
Mm.
goes. What do you got to talk about?
I am going to bring forth some updates on central bank digital currencies. I think that it's just something, this is going to be some views from some governors of multiple states and how they're being proactive. And I feel like this is such an important issue to not lose sight of and not to, lose the gravity of how detrimental this could potentially be, and just the awareness to continue to create that awareness for everybody when it comes to central bank digital currencies. We're really in the thick of it. We've been for the last year, 2 years, we've been really anticipating it, and now we are in the thick of it. So it's all kind of rolling out. So I have that, and then a little bit about Coinbase if we get to it. Nothing too exciting with that one, but just kind of an interesting feature that they have with their Coinbase Cloud. So if we have time, we can go into that one as well. And I have a couple memes that I'd like to share too if we get to those
Yay!
too.
You brought your memes. She brought her memes. Good for you. Yeah, and so this isn't really crypto news, but Montana made big news because they were the first state to ban TikTok. Did you see that?
No. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the
Whoa.
governor signed a
No.
bill. He signed the bill to ban TikTok. Now I think it's gonna. They say they're gonna go to court and they'll have to fight this out in the judicial system. But yeah, look at Montana stepping out there. I mean, I'm not that surprised about it, but it was funny. I was talking to my barista buddies, and we're all trying to figure out like how do you what do you do? How do you regulate that? Are they gonna if it's on your phone, or can they regulate like if you're in Montana, does it know and not allow you to download it from the app stores? I mean, I'm just like, how does that even work?
Yeah, interesting. Maybe also as just trying to set a precedence, like, or like something for other people to
Yeah,
follow too. I could see that happening. That's
yeah, that probably
wow.
is more likely. You know what it is, and it's like, well, the other thing we talked a couple months ago about Montana being one of the first states also to pass the bill to allow minors, in fact, encouraging minors to work here. And yeah, so it was Montana and Arkansas. I think it was Arkansas. And those two
Mhm.
states passed the bills for that. So yeah, it's pretty funny. My state's like stepping out here now that my readopted state. I was born and raised here, but I had moved away for a long, long time. So I'm coming back. I guess it's probably me. I'm coming back. Getting the state all fired up and ready to go.
Yeah, you brought it with you. Yes, Montana is my favorite state, and it will hopefully adopt me one day. I love
Yeah.
it there.
Well, we'll take you. We'll adopt you. Yeah, come on in. I like Idaho too. Idaho's good. All right. Let's see. Well, let's start with you. Let me pop over here to your screen. We'll get you going here. Ooh, you got some good stuff. Yeah, the DeSantos. This is interesting stuff here.
This is interesting, and he's not the only one. So Ron DeSantis, Florida governor, banned CBDCs in Florida. He is just on it. I mean, he is like not backing down. He is on fire, to me.
Yeah.
Uh, so he signed a bill last week to ban central bank digital currencies in Florida, and now others appear to want to follow in his footsteps. So Louisiana, Alabama, Texas, and North Dakota have all drafted bills opposing a digital dollar. CBDCs, as we know, hot topic right now, they're different than cryptocurrencies. I think there's still a lot of confusion with that, but
Mm-hmm.
they're majorly different than Bitcoin. They're majorly different than Ethereum because CBDCs are overseen and operated by a centralized entity. So that's kind of the key
Mm-hmm.
differentiator between the two. Only 11 countries have so far launched a CBDC. I know there's many more that have the pilot program going on. There is a website that has a map that you can follow. It's kind of interesting. I haven't gone onto it for a while, but I'm kind of curious to see. Most have launched a pilot program. Most countries, all orchestrated. If I just want to kind of add this. A lot of it is orchestrated by the Bank of International Settlements. Is that right? The
Yeah.
BIS,
BIS. Yep.
which is the central bank of central banks. And what they do is they go and they speak with the country's leaders and they kind of orchestrate all of this to try to get it rolled out. So China's digital yuan is the most advanced, as we would probably everybody would expect.
Mm-hmm.
In March, this is kind of interesting. Jerome Powell said that the Fed hadn't decided on whether a CBDC was needed in the States. I'm not sure if I believe that. And he may
Yeah.
think that. I don't know. I don't think he
No, I
thinks
don't.
that.
Yeah, I don't know what he thinks. I don't know. What he thinks and what he says. I mean, really, sometimes are two different things because whatever he says, there are websites and people out there that parse every word he says and try to figure out, what the markets are going to do. So you never know.
Yeah. And the Fed's website currently states that the body has made no decision on issuing a central bank digital currency and would only proceed with the issuance of a CBDC with an authorizing law.
Well, and wouldn't it be the Treasury? It would be Janet Yellen, I think, that would issue it. So I don't know why he's. I mean, I'm sure they're involved. They would be involved, but yeah,
Yeah.
go to Santos. Who's the guy on the other side that
So we
left
have
my left?
that's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. over on the
Oh, that's your
left.
man. Yeah,
That's my man. And then we have DeSantis. He's looking, I mean, yeah,
yeah,
that's just a faceless look. Like, come on.
right.
Like, what is going on here? Um, it tells it all. So Texas, it's kind of interesting, the other words from the other, I mean, it just shows the support, the people who are on the same wavelength with this. So Texas lawmakers introduced a draft expressing opposition to the creation of a CBDC within a bill claiming that a digital dollar could lead to unprecedented levels of government surveillance and control over private cash holdings and transactions. This is something that I know that we talk about a lot, but I don't think we can talk about it enough. So I'm going to repeat it until the day I die or until this is done. So also North Dakota, the adoption of a central bank digital currency in the U.S. bill says that the adoption of a CBDC by the federal government would hand unprecedented control over the lives, freedoms, choices, and sovereignty of the people of North Dakota to the Federal Reserve. So if this is your first time hearing this, if you happen to be watching this, and this is sparking something, I encourage you to look and kind of dive into this further, because it's probably the most important issue, one of the most important issues going on right now. Louisiana, the legislature said this technology raises significant concerns over privacy for individuals and businesses, and urged U.S. Congress to not support CBDC legislation. And then Alabama's, which is very close as well, to prohibit any, it's close to Florida's, prohibit any state or government local agency from accepting CBDCs as a form of payment. Lawmakers opposing CBDCs are overwhelmingly Republican, making the topic of a centralized digital currency in the states a very partisan issue. DeSantis has described the idea as woke, while anti-crypto, we know Elizabeth Warren, who's formulating her anti-crypto army, she has called for the U.S. to push ahead with the CBDC. So, I think that this is something that shouldn't, it is political, but I really would hope to not see people choosing like a party and the loyalty to a party and the label of that party over the issue in this case. It's just such an important issue. So
yeah, the only problem I have with that, because I agree, I wish it wasn't political, but the overriding theme of a CBDC is government control, more government control. And unfortunately, Democrats, that's their main theme. They want more government control, and Republicans want less government control. It really comes down to it's obviously much more complicated than that, but that's the simplicity of it. And so that's the sucky part of this, is because it's that simple, and that's where the main parties lie. And so I think that it's going to come right down party lines, unfortunately. And so we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think I feel like it could take a lot of Democrats away from that party. If it's a huge maker stand, I just can't see the support behind it.
Why would it?
I just don't see the support behind it. I don't understand how you could support that. I don't understand how someone would want that unless they just were purely just kind of ignorant about the whole situation, or uneducated, I guess. They don't have a well-rounded understanding and the gravity of it to me, because it's just so, I don't know. It's a big deal. I don't know how.
Let me give you my thoughts on it. My thoughts on it are, again, I think you can. I would challenge anyone that could really argue with the simplicity of the Democratic Party wants more government control, and the Republican Party wants less government control. And so if you just look at those two things, a CBDC is the ultimate government control tool, right? And so if you want more government control, if that's just your basic theme, you would vote for a CBDC. Now, there are issues and complexities of it, and I don't think they probably really understand it. But if they don't understand it, then they're just going to follow down what their base belief is, which is more government control is better. And so the few Democrats that would maybe not go for it, they might be the educated ones, and they might want to look into it a little bit more and understand even what digital currencies are. And it in a way, they if they don't understand about it, they're not going to understand the difference between Bitcoin and decentralization and a centralized entity. They don't really get that. And again, I'm totally generalizing here, broad generalizations, but again, if your view is that governments are in better position to help people out by having more control, then you're going to see the benefits of a CBDC as having more control. So it's going to be ugly when it comes right down to it. And as you can see, it's kind of going, the states that are adopting this are red states anyways. And so it's interesting because I have been when I grew up here in Montana, it wasn't a red state. It was more of a blue, kind of a liberal kind of a state. And since I've been gone, it's now much more red state for sure. And I've actually become more liberal really the older I got. And so I'm kind of in the middle. So I'm almost a minority a little bit here in Montana, but it's like Montana banning TikTok. You know, I don't want the Chinese to be stealing our stuff, but are they really? I don't really know. I mean, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Do I think there should be freedom of speech? Yeah. So I'm kind of in the middle of that road anyways, but in fact, I wish that Montana would switch out the TikTok thing, forget about that, and then go pass a no CBDC bill, which they probably will jump on because they're much more conservative state. At least it is for now, but we'll see.
Okay, so one thing that just popped in my head, and then we can shoot over to what you have, one of your articles. But what's interesting is we do have Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is going to be running as a Democrat, and he is very pro Bitcoin, anti CBDC. That kind of throws a little.
He gets it. He gets it though. He's in the forefront. He's educated. He gets it. And
right.
Like I said, there's always going to be. I generalized quite a bit there, but I'd love to hear anybody's argument to that or whatever, because I'm not in favor of one, but that's just kind of my logic. And good for him that he's not, because maybe he can rally more Democratic support. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We shall see.
Right.
Yeah, my article is also on the same topic. So let's take a look here, and it's not really good news, I don't think, for us, because Ripple they are XRP, that's their token, and I've never really understood XRP and Ripple because the XRP is a token that we can buy, and I assumed it's a decentralized token. But Ripple, the company, has always been involved in banking transactions, and so they have a whole, I believe that their initial focus was on creating technology that would allow banking transactions or financial transactions to happen faster. And they were the forefront of the technology. I was going to say it's blockchain, but it's like centralized blockchain in a way. They're just working on the technology. Now they also connect into the decentralized technology. Their technology, I believe, is also decentralized, or at least they have a form of that. And that's what the XRP token is, I think. But I'm kind of confused, because then this article comes out and it kind of made me think, yeah, Ripple basically now has created this platform for governments and financial institutions to create their own CBDC, and using the Ripple technology. So it's blockchain based, but this is going to be, as this points out, proprietary platform for central bank digital currencies, enabling central banks, governments, and financial institutions to create their own digital securities. Now, what I searched this article for was, are we talking strictly centralized blockchains here that are under the control of a government or a financial institution, or not? Proprietary to me means that it's probably a centralized private blockchain that will enable these CBDCs. Now they'll interact, right? They've got to be able to send funds or transfer funds between countries, which that'll be a whole interesting thing. If each country is creating their own proprietary CBDC, from the technical standpoint, it's blockchain. They could develop their blockchain and their underlying infrastructure any way they want, right? And it would be different than Bitcoin, or could be. The thing about Bitcoin and pure decentralized blockchains is that there's no, it all has to be the same, right? The blockchains, even though they might have a little bit other technology, they have to pass a block on to from one chain to the next chain, and there's bridges that do that and so on. But ultimately, as an end user, you don't really care. I mean, you just know that you're sending your Bitcoin, your ETH, or whatever from one network to the other network. You don't really understand what's happening, at the technical level. But there's a lot that goes on there, and so I don't know why. What I don't think I'm getting across what I'm trying to say here, but if they roll out this easy way for governments or companies to create their own proprietary little digital currency here, I think that's bad for decentralized, because if it's easy to do this and they don't need to move into a centralized Bitcoin type or Ethereum type network, then why would they? So I don't know. I just don't see this as good news. But it's business.
Yeah, I remember when Ripple was highlighted on the World Economic Forum's website. I remember seeing that, and I've never been an XRP. I've never been a Ripple. Like, I never just gotten into it. I never did in the past. And because I saw that, and then Coin Bureau highlighted, he had Coin Bureau, or Guy Turner from Coin Bureau had a really good couple months back, really dissected this. And I can't convey it in the way that he did, but it was just saying this, that this is the role that Ripple's going to be playing. And it seemed like it was Ripple and USDC were kind of the ones that were going to be for, and it's just, it's not a good feeling. I don't like it.
Well, in USDC too, that's the other thing. I mean, for me, I don't really know what these guys, what's going on with these guys, and in even USDC, because there's talk about them being like a CBDC creator, and so it gets really confusing. But here's what I have to remind myself, and even now I just had to remind myself that I kind of look at the whole crypto world in two ways, and maybe even the stock market too. You could probably apply this too. And you've got institutional and you've got retail. And you and I are retail. We're just trying to make a few investments and make a little bit money, and we're little guys. We're dealing in chump change compared to the big guys. Same thing with the stock market. When you buy Apple or Tesla or whatever, I mean, you want the infrastructure to work. You want it to be easy to log in and invest your money. And with the stock market, that's certainly the case. The problem is that on the other side of that are large institutions with massive quantities of money that are also doing the same thing. I mean, different stuff than we are as retail, but ultimately they're involved too. They're putting money into the system, into the crypto system, in the stock market, right? And what they're doing is on such a different level than what we do as retail investors. And the problem is that they're so big that they can move markets by what they do. And it affects us little guys, but we can't really affect the markets. We just don't have enough assets to do that. They're also like the new technology, fintech and blockchain. They're all coming up with their own technologies, right, to make it easier and better for these large institutions to do business in here. So stuff like this, like Ripple for sure, and USDC on the institutional level, I mean, that stuff affects me, but it's so above me. It's like so far above my head, and even though we see news about it, sometimes I can get wrapped up in stuff like this that I have no control over, and frankly, it doesn't even affect me. I just want to make sure, like from USDC's perspective, that stable coin that I use so that I can trade in my DeFi, my liquidity pools, that it works, that it's valid. I don't really, it's not that I don't care about this other stuff. It just doesn't affect me, and I have to always remind myself that it's like, focus on what is important to me as an investor, and this is certainly one of those. It's like, yeah, and I agree with CBDCs too because it will affect us eventually. Right now, it doesn't affect the way you and I interact, but it is one of those scary things that is sort of, it's taking digital currency, because I'm not going to call it, it's not crypto. Like CBDCs are not crypto. I mean, that in my mind, right? So I don't even want to call it that. It's just, but it's a digital currency that is privatized, is going to take away my control. It kind of looks and seems like it might be crypto because it's a tokenized digital asset that runs on a blockchain, but not your and I's blockchain. It doesn't run on our mama's blockchain. It runs on our daddy's blockchain out here somewhere. I don't know.
Programmable money. Yeah, programmable money.
Programmable money. Yeah. So anyways, I don't know. Take for that for what it's worth. It's like, when they start messing with regulating DeFi protocols and that kind of stuff and USDC, those do affect me, and I have to, I'm gonna have to pay attention to that. But stuff like this, I can get all wrapped up about like what is the technology and what is Ripple doing with this, and yeah. So that's my rant on that.
Mm-hmm. Cool. If you
All right.
have another one, Scott, if you have another one, we should go to yours. Mine's
Okay.
not as interesting as yours sounded. So if we get to my other one at the end, we can, but
Okay.
let's hear it.
Well, let's just look at this fun little one about the UK.
Oh, I saw
Um,
this.
yeah, it's. I mean, there's not much to say about it other than where'd it go? Oh, that's MetaMask. That's that. Okay, where'd you go? Let's try to get it bigger here. Yeah, and I don't even. Again, I don't really understand what this means because they have passed their bill, or I don't know if they've passed it yet, but they've got a cryptocurrency bill, a national bill. What is it called again? FEMA, fee. I can't remember the name of it, but it's and it's a bill. So then you've got authorities, and this is the thing I always loved. Again, UK authorities. I'm guessing these might be regulators, like UK type regulators. They've just put out a statement saying that cryptocurrency trading is a form of gambling rather than a financial service. Parliament's Treasury Committee. They said this after an inquiry into the industry. What else? But basically, I thought there was another quote here. It's just like they're just trouncing it. Just saying it's like gambling, and that always just raises the hair on. That just gets me mad when people call
Yeah.
investing in crypto gambling. I mean, it, and that really shows the ignorance of it because it's no difference than stock market investing. I mean, there's differences, but it's the same thing. It's like you're hoping and you're using an educated guess that the price of whatever this asset is going to go up. And a market is a market. There are tried and true ways that markets move. Crypto market is no different. And so that's all I got to say on that. Really nothing more to
You know
say.
what I thought when I read that headline, or I read this article a day or two ago, and you know what it made me think is if it's regulated as gambling, when you go to the casino or if you're going to go do your gambling, do you have KYC? Like, do you have all of these like rules and regulations around that? Like, no, you're just going to go do your thing, and there is no paper trail. There is, none of that.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
what it is. So it isn't gambling. And I'm not saying that crypto has KYC because in DeFi there's not, but they're nothing alike. It's just interesting. That's what I was thinking about. I was like, okay, well then let's call it gambling, and then let us just do what we want to do with it.
Yeah,
Why does it
right.
have to be such a thing? Like, why does it have to be so controlled? It's really
Because yeah, and interesting. That is interesting because the gambling industry is regulated in a lot of ways, uh, and we're not saying that crypto does shouldn't be regulated at all. Give us some regulations, and we'll all play by the rules as long as you're not stifling our ability to invest and make money, or our ability to create. But yeah, the next line in there is the government must avoid wasting more taxpayer funds promoting tech innovations such as digital tokens without demonstrating a clear benefit to the public. I mean, it that shows even more ignorance. And I'm not saying that everybody gets it to this level, but I've been reading a lot more about just blockchain technology and going back and studying Satoshi Nakamoto's first papers that came out. And I mean, I've already drank in the Kool-Aid, but it's such a phenomenal invention, Bitcoin and blockchain. And it is going to change so much of our world and replace so much of the old world. And I was thinking about this before I fell asleep last night, how to describe the difference between the traditional finance and say the crypto finance. And I was thinking of this layer like a cake and describing traditional finance and how, let's say from the 1900s or, whatever, before the Great Depression or whatever, and you had, banks and dollar bills were being created and we were trying to develop like what is a currency. And you would have, bank runs and bankers stealing banks or, bank robbers, on their horses, stealing the money from the trains or whatever, right? I mean, so there was a lot of distrust, and they had to create a system that would protect people's money so that they wouldn't get ripped off by the Jesse James and the bandits, on the trains. And so banks couldn't do whatever they wanted to do because they used to be like these wildcat banks that were, created, and then the bankers would take off with people's money or whatever because there just was no rules and laws or whatever. And so then you move into, in the 30s, and the Fed was created, and then you had, the Justice Department, not Justice, but Treasury Department, and you just had all these layers and layers and layers, and then you had all these financial layers in between of all these different types of stocks and bonds and derivatives and all these things that you can invest, and then layer on all these different regulators and everything, and you've got like this 50-layer cake that was created because of trust. You can't trust anybody, so you had to layer in all these people, and the only way they knew how to do it was have an institution layered into the process, so that if you want to send money from A to B, you had to go through this 50-layer cake to get it from one side to the other side, right? And what crypto does, because of the blockchain and Bitcoin, it literally eliminates all 50 layers of that, because you know that you can send funds, assets, currency, whatever you want to call it, from A to B. And if it runs over the blockchain, all of that stuff that was layered on, you don't need anymore. The code does it. The smart contracts and the blockchain code, they do that. There's something like $70 trillion or something, maybe it's even more, locked up in those 50 layers, because each layer has to have a pool of funds to absorb the in and outs from layer to layer to layer to layer, right? To create this massive global financial system. And there's trillions of dollars just in there. If you could eliminate that through blockchain, right? So if basically a blockchain, Bitcoin type of financial system just took over everything, you would wipe out that 70 trillion. It would free that 70 trillion up to go into the governments, into saving the climate, feeding the poor, whatever. I mean, what you could do with that 70 trillion that just sits in there in that 50-layer cake because we can't trust each other. And that's the importance of this. That's why this kind of statement that the UK makes is just so ludicrous, because if you can understand it that way, the impact that crypto could have, it's amazing. That's how I look at it.
Well said. And you came up with the cake analogy?
Yeah, I
That
just
was your
did
thing?
just now.
Yeah, good. I like that.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, because I was thinking, it's like I've heard it described in layers and like a 7-layer cake or whatever. But I'm thinking, and I don't know if the number is 50. I don't know what it is, but I wish, and there's probably somebody that has created like a map of like all the entities that are involved in a transaction from A to B, with all the banks and the financial institutions and the regulators and everything. It's just all sitting in this ugly, kludgy financial system that we just kludged together over the years. And Bitcoin and blockchain technology, like it's the new thing. It gets rid of all of that for the most part. And it's just this time of, it's like any technology, right? It's like the locomotive, right, was going to ruin everything. The car was going to ruin everything. The internet, the telephone, any new technology was going to ruin everything. And, the hardest thing I think for humans to deal with is money. It's a very emotional situation. Just everybody has to deal with money, and everybody is emotionally connected to money. So now when we start trying to change the way money is handled and even the way you think about money, well, you're going to go up against a lot of ingrained feelings, emotions, or organizations, institutions. So it's an uphill battle, and I think we need to realize that. But when you get it, you get it, and sometimes I'm just saying to myself, I wish I had a lot more money that I could put into it, because if I could just sit on $50,000 and not ever have to worry about it and put it into Bitcoin, I'd be set in 10, 15, 20 years because it's going to happen. Now, unfortunately, we know, it could be something else. Maybe it's not Bitcoin, and maybe I think it's because it's so new and it's so dynamic that I don't think anybody can predict in 20 years what the financial system will look like, and like who will be the clear winners. Will it be Bitcoin? Will it be something else? Will it be Ethereum? Will it be XRP? I mean, really, you really don't know at that point. But what we do know, and what I firmly believe, and I believe you do, and most people watching this, is that crypto blockchain technology is going to replace it. And we're right in the middle of the sausage making. That's what I always like to say, and it can get really ugly. And and so for me, I think about this because I'm writing a book on this. I want to really capture the essence of sort of the big picture here too. But on a day-to-day basis, none of that really matters to me. I'm just want to make sure that my USDC pairs with my ETH and I can get a yield.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I don't know, maybe you kind of touched on this, or maybe I'm completely off. But part of where, if we have our money in the bank, right, we put our money in the bank, it doesn't like actually exist there. I can't remember the percentage that needs to exist there. It was something I was just listening to the other day, that for the bank that they're required to have. But as we know, they go and loan that money out. So they instantly, that number is a number, but it's not all there. All of our money is not within the bank. And so Bitcoin is totally one-to-one, right? So that takes that all out, right? It takes any lending and borrowing of things that aren't actually existing, right?
Yeah.
It takes it all out of there. Okay.
Yeah, because, and what that's called is, it's called over collateralization. And that's what the DeFi system and crypto in general uses when you're going to do loans, basically. So that really comes into play when you're going to leverage your trading, or you want to take a loan out on your money or your Bitcoin, right? In crypto, you put your Bitcoin in a smart contract, and you can take a loan against that. But if you have $100 of Bitcoin in there, you can only take a loan of $50, right? You've got to have over collateralization. Now, in the banking world or whatever, it's all under collateralized, or it's the fractional banking system, right? You only have each bank only has a fraction of the amount of loans that they have in the bank, or the amount of deposits, excuse me. So you deposit your money in there, and they immediately go out and invest it somewhere, right? They only have to, and I think the number might be 10%, and it might be lower than that. It might be 1%, right? That they literally have in there. So when there's this, that's why it's so fragile, because nobody thinks about this, and they also know that there's backstops, right? And there's FDIC, and then there's government and the Fed. But if there's a bank run like we just saw a couple months ago, it's all psychological, right? There's never all the money in there, and yet we don't think about that. And what happens is people think, well, that's why I got to get there first, because I know there's not enough. I better get my ass in line first, and that's what the rush is. It used to be I'd have to go down and stand in line at a teller to get my money out, right, or get a check. Now with digital technology, bank runs happen in minutes, and it's freaking out the Fed and the government because they're not prepared for that. And that's exactly what we saw with these banks last month or last couple months, go under. And so to me, that is, Brianna, that's a good simple way that I'm like, why do you look at crypto like it's so flawed, it's so risky, if you look at the lending in crypto, it's like we're not doing stupid stuff like fractional. I mean, to get a loan, you've got to have twice the amount of crypto in there to get your loan against it. That's much more safe, much more secure, much more sound than anything in the banking system. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's just direct, very direct and straightforward. It's not a backwards way of doing things. It's like the way to do things in a sound way, right? So, yeah, we'll see what happens. And then you add in the trustless aspect of it. And I mean, it's just gold. That's why it's gold.
That's why it's
Bitcoin's
digital gold. And, it really is. And this is the kind of thing I think about. And I want to really articulate this in my book. And that is this crypto is a force for good in the world. And more and more people are going to see that. I want to introduce more and more people to that with some of these concepts, right? And the problem, especially like for us, is that in America, in Europe, in places, we don't have to worry about money, really. I mean, let me put it back. We don't worry about the security for the most part. We know with our credit card, if somebody steals our credit card, we just call the credit card company. They bail us out or do whatever. Now we're all paying because of the exorbitant credit card fees, which again, that's another thing that crypto alleviates, our credit card fees and fees. And we've got our own fees and gas fees and so on. But because of the technology is so streamlined, so efficient, we don't have to layer on all of these more people to jack the fees way up. I mean, why? If you could take this digital currency and you could put it in your own wallet, right? So you can control it. But let's just say it's your own little bank. It's your own little bank in your digital wallet. And you become your own banker. And that's basically whatever it costs to create the technology, which is not that much, really, because it's open source software. I mean, really, to create the blockchain, I think, is so much less than to create like the Visa network with all of their computers and all that kind of the infrastructure. So much less of that. And so maybe you've got a few developers and you got, the people that run Bitcoin nodes, looking at what does it take to make sure that the Bitcoin network runs. You got to have nodes, you got to have infrastructure, but basically it runs on, these server farms, the miners, but ultimately it could run on our computers. So what I'm saying is it's very robust. It could run on big computers, small computers, and you would always have the network there. You can't blow it up. You can't disrupt it unless you took out the whole internet. And then you compare that to the 50-layer cake that the traditional financial system is on, and just take a bank where you've got the average bank has, I don't know about you, but like especially in the suburbs of Kansas City where I used to live, there was a bank on every corner, a bank branch. There was banks coming out of the woodwork. Those buildings, how much did each branch building cost? Millions of dollars. Think of all the people that work in a bank, all the tellers, all the accountants, then you've got all the vice presidents and all the executives, and that's just one little banking system. You take that across all the banks. All of that gets replaced by this little Bitcoin network that has, these nodes, and then I've got my little digital wallet. So the efficiency, the pureness, it's clean. I don't know another word to describe. and it
Mm-hmm.
replaces that ugly 50 layer whatever of all these people and all this stuff. Now, is it scary for them? Yeah, because what are they going to, if this replaced it? Yeah, it's going to replace a lot of stuff. And yeah, I get it that Bitcoin alone, it's never been hacked. It's just elegant in the way that it works. But to really to move the entire financial system over to something like that, yeah, there's going to be some tweaks and some working. It's not as easy as just flipping a switch, and that's what we're living through. But we've got to fight all this psychological stuff too, all the mental stuff of people being afraid of it. And this is why I'm kind of ranting here. It's like, if you just think of all the efficiencies that this new system can bring you, and everything that I've just talked about. I mean, you start to see, okay, this is definitely the way of the future. Now, I understand that there may be some hiccups here and there. I get it, but you got to try it. You're almost negligent if you don't try Bitcoin or crypto. You really have to be labeled. I'm not trying to be mean here, but you're really labeled as sticking your head in the sand. And
Mm-hmm.
you will get burned if you don't at least open up your eyes and try it. And now with some of these apps and stuff, it's pretty easy to buy some Bitcoin. My recommendation would be that you buy it and then read a few books, understand what's happening behind it, because it's so new, it's still very volatile, right? So Bitcoin's going to go up and down. And that's part of it. Is people say, well, last month or last year was $60,000, and now it's down to 25 or 24. What kind of system is that? Well, it's a new system,
Right.
and if you're aware of what's going on, then you can prepare for that fall and for that rise. And if you know that it was 60 and you still believe it's a really good technology, then you should be pretty darn happy that you're buying it at 25. Because it's going to be 60, 70, 80, 100 or something, more. I mean,
And that's when they're going to want to hop on. If that's where that's how it goes. That's when people want to hop on. And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Uh,
I'm
so
done.
to add to that just a little bit, to read the Bitcoin white paper. I know you brought up TikTok a little bit ago, and what makes me think about TikTok in regards to this is challenge your attention span. See if you can read the Bitcoin white paper. It isn't very long if you haven't read it yet. It's 8 pages, and it's pretty well understandable. I printed it out when I first did it, and I was like, wow, like I really enjoyed reading it, and it's pretty easy to comprehend. See if you can make it through the 8 pages. Challenge your attention span, and that's kind of my recommendation.
You've been
Because
challenged.
I think it's important to understand it before, and then you go through the steps of, like you said, just get into it a little bit and see what's going on there. But first, no, just read the white paper, right? And then
Yeah.
go to the step.
So I've been reading a lot of books, just a lot of Bitcoin books and crypto books in general, and there's a lot out there. I'm wondering sometimes why am I writing another crypto book? But authors always think they have a different twist on something, and I think I do. But what's interesting is so as it stands now, I'm trying to figure out like what's chapter one. How do I get people sunk into this? And I don't know if this is compelling enough, but for me and probably for people that know Bitcoin, it is. I'm wondering if it is for people that don't understand Bitcoin. But really, my first chapter opens up with a detailed description of what was happening in the 2008 financial crisis. I mean, I don't know how detailed I'll get, but I'd love to be able to like literally just be like a fly in the room, a fly on the wall in the room where the Fed chairman or the Treasury secretary and the Fed chairman brought all the big bankers into one big room and said, look, the whole world financial system is about to crash. We all have to get on board. You guys have to take this money. The federal government is going to give you a ton of money and you have to take it. And some of the bankers said, I don't want to take it. We're in good shape. And the federal government said, yes, you have to take it, because if you don't take it, it's going to not look good. It's going to look like we're not in control. We need all of the major banks to take this money. And that will improve confidence. The system will rebalance itself and we'll be good to go. And so then was born money print. Well, it had happened before, but from 2009 when this happened, it was like quantitative easing, money printing. It was massive injections of money into the system by the government, and it did, and it boosted this up. And so so I kind of described that, and then in the same chapter, I'm like, and in the background, there was a lowly programmer sitting at a computer trying to figure out how to create this digital cash. And I have the dates, whatever, November something of 2008, a white paper drops onto the internet on an internet forum in a message that said, I've been working on a electronic cash system, electronic peer-to-peer cash system, and the white paper drops. And it's on this mysterious server somewhere, and programmer after programmer download the white paper and they read it and like, oh my God, this is awesome. And people have been working on trying to create a digital currency for years and years, 20 years earlier. And blockchain had been around for 20 years, right? But nobody could quite piece it together. How to take blockchain and a little bit of this and a little bit of that and create this thing called Bitcoin. And as more programmers start asking questions, and for 2 years, Satoshi was trading emails, whoever Satoshi is, with the developer community. And in 2012, just as Bitcoin was, starting to come along, I think it was like $1 or $5 or $10 at the time, and it started to gain momentum. So enough developers were creating their own nodes and passing money back and forth, and they were being able to trade it, and it was rising up in price. Satoshi just goes offline, never to be heard from again. But he'd seeded it, enough programmers had it, and it just every year got bigger and bigger, and then it took off, right? So I just find that sort of fascinating. It's like a mystery, right? And yet it was created right in the midst of one of the worst financial crises, that we've had. And so to me, that's a really big, huge story, and just a juxtaposition of how bad it could get, and then the savior is born, Bitcoin, right? And we're still trying to identify that. But that's what I would want for people to be as excited as I am to tell this story, because it's revolutionary, and that's how it began. And so then I want to then start talking about why it's so important, and what blockchain means and so on, without going too technical to lose everybody. So that's where I am with my story.
Damn, Scott. I'm so excited. I can't wait to read your book.
Good.
It's so funny. And I know we say this, when it comes down to, neither of us have ever been like in the past super into finance. And now we're just like all about finance, and like you mix finance and history. Yeah. And it's just this like, yeah, super interesting. I'm stoked for your book.
Yeah, thanks. I gotta get on it, because I'm trading, and I'm airdropping, and I'm doing this, and then I'm like, and I'm not a great at just like, okay, I got this deadline and I got to follow this. I'm kind of like, when the writing inspiration comes in, I go for it, and I go hard for a day or two or a week or two, and then I get back to this everything. So we'll see, but it is exciting, and like now, just telling that story, it's exciting, but that's what I want to convey to people. This is really a big deal, and we can get lost in a lot of parts of it, but if you look at its humble beginnings, and literally if you look at that, because I've read this a lot, sort of that Bitcoin was born out of that crisis, but and I'm not a fiction writer, but I really want to just put that sort of fictional, sort of like put you in the room, and so we'll see if I can pull that off. But because what I have now is pretty dry, but even as I'm just telling the story now, I'm like, okay, it would be fun. I got to really get creative in how I write this out. So we'll see.
Cool. Excited. That's awesome. Good for you. Yeah. That's going to be good.
So we'll see.
Okay.
Well, we
really quick.
Minutes. We got to do memes. Yeah, go for it. Let's see. Okay. Meme time. And I think I got a couple too.
Okay. I'm moving slow here. Just 1 minute.
No worries. It's going to be worth it, guys. We got memes.
Yeah, the amplification. Okay.
Oh,
Is that a little bit too big? Should I? Can you see it?
Well, is that yeah? Well, yeah. Make it smaller a little bit.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm not very tech savvy. Okay. Better. Okay.
There
So,
we go. Yeah,
Bitcoin. If Bitcoin is such a good investment, why don't the banks like it?
yeah.
I mean,
Alex, or whatever.
Alex, yeah, Alex Jones. And I've never
Alex
followed
Jones.
him or watched his stuff. I've seen his things in the headlines, but it's so true. It's like you're
Yeah,
like that question or questions like that are asked. It's like, okay, where do I get started?
yeah. Where do I start? Like, oh, yeah.
When you've invested your entire life into crypto,
Oh yeah.
the
I
old
feel like
Rick
this.
is gone and he ain't coming back.
He ain't coming back. Yeah. Were you a Walking Dead fan?
I was.
Did you
I
watch
never,
all the seasons?
I didn't. I stopped. It
I
started
didn't
to
either.
get,
It got
I-
weird.
it got weird and
It got weird.
I would still like to finish it out, but,
I
uh,
would too. I'm the same way. I think I probably because I think it was 7 or 8 seasons. I think I got 5 or 6, but I think the last 2 or 3 just got weird.
agreed. We probably stopped around the same time, I would guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the
I
old
don't know.
Rick ain't coming back. Yeah, that's sometimes how I feel. When we get into the weeds, and like I said, sometimes I have to remind myself, just you can only worry about so many things. Worry about making sure that your liquidity pool is working.
Right. Right. Okay. And then one more newcomer to Bitcoin. When do I cash this
Ah,
out?
yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
OG Bitcoiner. That's
nice.
the part you don't.
That's the neat part. That's the neat part. Love it. Yep. That's good. All right. Is that it?
That's it.
All
That's what I
right.
got.
Here. All right. Here's what I got. What do you think about this? This just cracked me up because it's so true, right? Web3 devs turning into AI devs. Whoops. Let's go this way.
So, so
I
true.
just find that just so interesting because like all of the I don't know all the newsletters and all the crypto stuff had just started, talking about AI, and then I was starting to buy into AI, and so I'd click on these things, and so now I've got, like I said, now I've got so much AI email and so much crypto, and really, it like if you're into crypto, you can easily get connected with AI. I mean, they go together so well, so it's like hilarious how this is all happening and so damn fast, and it really makes me think like. So if you're on the sidelines, right, and you're not a techie or you're not into crypto or AI or any of this stuff, and you're just like, if you were to look at this and just like everybody's all gung ho about Web3 and about blockchain and crypto, and all of a sudden, like, bam, in 2 days, crypto what? It's like it's all AI, baby.
It is all AI. And I don't know if you come back. It's once you go to that, I don't know if there's any coming back
I
either.
don't know. I have come back and forth because I got sucked down the AI rabbit hole, and I go back, but what I'm really trying to do now because the thing about AI, kind of like crypto, and it really fits my personality, is that yeah, you can use ChatGPT on the surface, and you can kind of use it, and it's kind of cool. Or most people, you look at it, you're like, oh wow, that's amazing, like whoa. But then you're like, okay, well, how can I really use it in my day to day? How can I really use it? And that's the trick because it's not that easy. I don't think. And part of it is there's so much new stuff coming out. I'm like, well, how can I really use it to improve my life? And you can, but now it takes a lot of time and work and understanding what's under the hood and how to be a prompt engineer and all this kind of stuff. And so I was going down that rabbit hole and I was like, well, I'm not a programmer, but I think I could piece together some things to take ChatGPT in the background and then use its API and connect it to like a spreadsheet that would, if I'm just interested in looking at, let's say, how to write headlines, I just want to fill in, like, have a blank and say, here's what my headline's about, and then have ChatGPT go and feed it in there. And I don't know if you've seen those, but a lot of people are coming out with kind of front-ending ChatGPT, so it's not just like this open thing, like where do I start? So I thought, well, I could create one of those. And so I went down that rabbit hole and I was trying to learn this, how to do this stuff. And I'm just like, this is just taking me so much time. I don't know. Oh, I got to get back to my liquidity pools, And so I was just like, what am I doing? But now, and then what happened is that with the art stuff, right? So now it's like text to video, which is the next big thing. So text to art, that's awesome, and there I still love playing with that. But now you can do text to video. And so what I'm trying to do now is like, cause I'm trying to, build this YouTube channel and everything, is how can I use AI to create videos faster and maybe more on target to, to my audience. So that's kind of what I'm focused on. So in the background, I'm kind of look at that. And I found 2 or 3 or 4 different programs that you can feed in like a video that you already have, or you can feed in like a blog article or whatever, and it'll create all the assets. Like it'll pull in pictures and videos that match that. It'll record your voice and
Wow.
create an AI voice for you and plop it out into video. Now, just like anything, it's sort of amazing that it can do that, but it also doesn't sound like me, and you've got to tweak it. So now it's part of that. But anyway, so I totally fit in. I'm like one of those cars that just like veered into the AI lane, but now I'm like, well, I got to drive down the center lane because I'm doing both. Okay, so here's this guy. I love this guy. This poor guy, who
He's in like every meme.
he's in everything, and I don't know. He probably is like, I'm just a guy, and now I'm this major meme. The SEC says only to invest in USA licensed financial institutions, and he's like, you mean like FTX and SVB? Right. I like that one too.
Yeah. Yep. Spot on.
Spot on. Oh, that's all I got. I thought I had one more. No, that's it. All right. Well, cool. Well, we're 4 after. Not bad. Keep it around an hour. It's like, most people probably tuned out, hours ago. Actually, I think there were still 4 people hanging out. So come say hi. Say hi to us now. If not, say hi on the replay. Say hi to us. We want to know what you guys want to, we want to know if like we're just blabbing, or if like, is there anything else you want to talk about? Oh, that's me. So anyways, but thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with us and blabbing about crypto and AI.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week. Bye.